It's going down. It's going down, 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 down. It's going
All right, hello out there, YouTube people. Welcome to the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We are live here on September 30th, going to be talking and discussing and breaking down the 7th episode of She-Hulk, which is titled Retreat. We have a few familiar faces returning in this episode, and it's going to be just a fun little talk and breakdown, as we like to say over here in the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Of course, we have a really fantastic panel here with us tonight. Of course, we have returning Mr. Fantastic. It's great to have you back, sir. How are we doing?
Fantastic, as usual.
Awesome. Great to have you. And then we also have, of course, joining us, Loki's mom, who is here with us, which is great. She is currently at work, so she might come in and out. So it's great to have her here with us when she can. And of course, hopefully Mr. Jeff May, other trusty co-host, TrueKnowledge, will be joining us. He's having some difficulties. He's down in the great lands of Florida where Hurricane Ian just passed through. So he might be having some technical issues. So hopefully we do get him in here eventually. All right, so we're going to play for you guys the promo for this episode. And then we're going to get into talking about this episode. So let's start off with that.
Hello.
I think you're in a unique position to do some real good. Jen Walters can use the law to help people when society fails them. She-Hulk can help people when the law fails them.
You put on your green suit.
Put on my green suit?
Yeah, jolly green yourself. I don't know what you call it.
Hulking out.
Okay, good. Whatever.
This guy's really kind of doing it for me.
That is not how we work through our issues.
All right, awesome little promo there. I really didn't show much from this episode, but that's what the promos episode 7 was supposed to be for. So, anyways, so awesome. So we're gonna get right into this. Let's talk about this here. All right, so the episode starts off with it shows Jen in her apartment, and she's on her phone texting with Josh, and basically it shows her getting ready for her date with him. And so we have this montage going on showing her like putting a book down on a certain area to make her apartment look better, shows her getting changed, shows all this kind of fun stuff, and then texting. And so after that kind of initial, he finally comes to take her on a date, we see a whole bunch of dating montage basically of them and them going on dates over the next few days, them texting with each other while they're at their job and stuff like that. And like we get one scene where he's like something about a truck and a milkshake, or fries and a milkshake, and she does like the emoji for French fries and a milkshake, and then like a drooly face. And so as it progresses, we get more of that, little bit of that montage where eventually it ends up with him coming inside finally after several dates. And so as that adventure's on there, we get that kind of montage, and that's when we eventually go to back to Jen's job, and she's there with Nikki, and they're talking, and she's like, I didn't realize you're up for an award and stuff like that, and like, are you looking at that website? She's like, no, I'm not gonna let that bother me. And she starts to discuss a little bit about her being ghosted by Josh. Like all of a sudden they slept together, she explains that they slept together, and that, oh, like all of a sudden he's not texting me and I'm worried and all this kind of stuff. And basically Nikki's like, well, maybe you're saying the wrong thing or something, and something like that. And basically they kind of leave it at that. And basically then through the next portion, We see basically her at home and checking her phone every like 5 seconds, looking for a text from Josh, and seeing her do things like she's watching a movie and this and that and stuff like that. And then she basically goes to sleep at one point and then wakes up to a phone call. So before we go on with that, let's talk a little bit about that little intro section there. Was there anything that you found fun about that section? Was there anything you disliked? Was there anything that you might have seen that maybe somebody else didn't see, or something that was like, oh, I wonder if somebody noticed that or something? And just what your thoughts were on that intro to basically this episode of She-Hulk. Starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, if you don't mind, I want to go back to that promo and just say, boy, that's about as close to misleading advertising as you can get without being illegal. Because there was hardly anything about this episode in that promo.
Yep.
I think 2 clips for a total of maybe 0.72 seconds. So, that was a bit strange. But anyway, moving on. But I think, well, the biggest thing that caught me was that when you mentioned her getting ready, I thought it was cool camera work because they actually showed, it was sort of like panels in a comic book, where she was in one room, and before she leaves the camera view, you can see her in another room doing something else, right? And then it kind of pans through her apartment, and they're overlapping in that sense. So it's like panels in a comic book almost. I thought that was pretty cool. I hadn't seen somebody do it quite that way before. And if they've done it, I haven't seen it, so sorry. But I thought that was nice. That was pretty cool on that end. So the opening was like, okay, wow, somebody's putting some thought into this. This is pretty cool. And then let's see. So as far as she's excited to see him. The thing I guess was great about this is it seemed very genuine. So acting wise, I believed they were both, into each other, and not to be foreshadowing or anything, but I bought it. I was like, yeah, okay, this seems legit. So as far as that goes, I think that all was done well for the point they were trying to put together of, hey, wow, she found a guy, he's into her. Now, the whole thing of like, okay, well, let's have sex after a few dates. Like, okay, fine, whatever. But, okay, I guess that's normal these days. But then, and then him being gone was like, oh, yeah. And my immediate was like, this is going to turn bad real fast. And that was my first thought. And then I went, okay. And they didn't really, then they went a whole nother direction, which we're going to talk about. But that was my first thought. So it was, in a sense, it kind of set it up. It set everything up okay, but then that moment I was like, well, yeah, I kind of know where this is going. So maybe I'm jaded. I don't know, but that's where I'm at with that whole thing.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if you noticed though in like any of those scenes, just how. Yeah, I agree with the camera work thing. I thought they did really good with that opening sequence. And even like the scene where she's changing from the bath towel to the clothing, how the door was closed and opened back up. That was really
it was
cool
like
too.
It was like immediate. Yeah, it was kind of, and you didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, again, clever,
that was
just
clever.
unexpected in that sense, not silly to be silly or just weird angles to have weird angles, but just, like, oh, okay, that was a cool transition. I would have thought of that. That's nice.
Yeah, most definitely. Loki's mom, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. What were your thoughts on that beginning sequence of the film, basically from Jen getting ready for the date up until she wakes up to the call?
Yeah, I thought it was. You mentioned the sort of the gliding montage, as it were, the panning montage, which was well done. I mean, I've seen it done a couple of times in movies and whatnot, and to kind of show the flow of time and how she's waiting on this, she's happy, she's waiting on this, her new date and all that. And so yeah, I thought it was done real sweet, and then it was, very rom-commy, and then there, she finally gets to go to bed with him, just like she kind of did with her first date with the hot guy in the other episode. But then same deal, she wakes up, he's gone, So anyway, it's yeah, I thought it was just kind of like really didn't have anything to do with She-Hulk part. It was just Jen finally having a nice date and having a couple of nice where she could be herself and everything, and she didn't have to worry about, you know, if does he really like me for who I am and that kind of thing. And so anyway, yeah, it was kind of generic. You've seen it done a lot, but I thought it would fit real well in this episode.
Thank you. Awesome.
I one last thing. I don't know who's design. Well, I know there are people designing this, but why they're putting her in dresses that look like they were self-made from 1969, I don't understand. I really don't understand that. It's distracting to me, actually. I don't get it. But
I'm thinking what this is what I came to a conclusion to. I think it's because of her when she transforms into She-Hulk because she's so much bigger. I think that's the reason why they seem so much bigger. That's the only thing I could think of. That's probably what they're doing. But if
I mean, like fit-wise, I get it, but just the style itself is just very weird. Like, I get it's very loose fitting, and okay, that's fine. I mean, that makes sense. I get that. I'm not bothered by that because that's just a practical thing. But it's the style choices they're making that I'm very confused by. I don't get what they're trying to do there.
Oh, it's almost like she's like a librarian, almost, kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, they're really going for she's one way and She-Hulk's totally the hot babe, and she's not. And I get that's kind of what they're doing, but I just don't understand the actual choice, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I get the dichotomy of it. Like, I know they're trying to make them very separate. And, okay, fine, but I don't know. I think it could be done much differently. That's all.
Right. All I can think of is in that instance is Skeletor when he goes. That's all. That's what every time I see her in something, I'm like, what? And it just that's just how it brings it to me. I swear that's like it's like serious. Like, what is she wearing? Like,
what is that? Funny. Like, why? Okay, well, and then I just have to try to ignore that. Go on. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's distracting to me, I guess. Is that's why I don't like it. So anyway,
most definitely.
I guess I don't get it. No, anyway, go ahead.
I agree. I'm in that complete same boat with you. All right, so after that montage, that like I said, all of a sudden Jen's asleep and she gets woken by a phone call, and the phone call is a liaison of Emil Blonsky, who is looking over him while he's on his probation. So he calls her to, say basically that there's something wacky going on with his ankle bracelet thing that's supposed to keep him from transforming into the abomination, and that there's none of the squad can help him out. So he was calling her to ask her if she could come to help him out in She-Hulk form, because it's the abomination. What if he's transformed the abomination and he's gone crazy? So she says okay, and so then she's driving, and of course we see her again looking at her phone, looking for text messages from Josh, and then all of a sudden we get her at one point singing to Hanson Umbot, which was really hilarious. And all of a sudden it pans to the cop guy, and he's at the front gate, like trying to get in, and she just drives right in and in through the gate without any problems. He's like, what the heck? And then he follows her in, and they get out of the car, and he's like talking to her for a second, and she's like, okay, let's get on with this. Emil, and like he's calling for him, and he's like, whoa, why are you doing that? What if he's in abomination form? We don't want a giant abomination to come and running at us. And so she's like, okay, and then all of a sudden it cuts, and it's both of them are with Emil, and she's in She-Hulk form. And he's checking the ankle bracelet thing and stuff like that. He's like, this is weird. It seems to be malfunctioning. Has anything happened? And Emil's kind of just like very, very like, like simple. And he's like, well, I kind of had a problem with electric fence the other day. And it's like, oh, okay, and it might have scrambled it or something. And he's like, okay. And it's like, well, maybe you want to stay away from electric fences, And he puts his phone thing on it and he fixes it, and so I was like, you're all set, okay? So hopefully we won't have another one of these calls. And so the cop leaves. Emil and Jen go back out to her car, and they're kind of having a conversation. She once again is looking at her phone, trying to see if Josh has, texted her and stuff like that. And basically when they get to the car, they're talking for a few seconds, and Emil's like, maybe you should do this sometime, do a retreat, take a yacht sweat or something like that. And she's like, not really, I don't need that. And, all of a sudden out of nowhere, two people come flying out and crush into her car and wreck her car. And we get introduced to Man Bull and the guy that considers himself a matador. I forget what his name is. He never really, I feel he didn't really mention his name. He just called himself different things. And they're having like a squabble and stuff like that, messing up her car. And she's like, whoa, guys. She's like, you just destroyed my car. And they're like, sorry. And they're like, introduce themselves. I'm Man Bull. And this guy is like, and he has like all the matador type of guy. He's like, I like to call myself a swashbuckler. And so he looks like a matador. He looks like a matador. But so they kind of talk and squabble, and and Emil's like, well, she's like, how am I going to get out of here now? Jen says, and he's like, well, we can call a tow truck. Emil says, and it's like, and so like, Mambo, can you help me push this, to the garage? And he's like, I'm not a mechanical bull here, man. I'm a man bull. And they're like, how long were you waiting to say that? You wanted to say that in one instance, didn't you? And Jen's like, I feel that was very forced. He's like, you too. And then it cuts to them walking, Emil and Jen. He's like, well, the good news is that the tow truck will be here in a few hours. And she's like, how is that good news? He's like, well, that allows you to get away and do whatever you need to help, relax yourself and stuff like that. And so they're walking and talking a little bit more. And of course, Jen is, moving her phone all around, saying, she's like, is there service here? He's like, no, not really. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, he's like, this will be a good time for you to get away from that. And she's like, no, I need a desk and I have work to do. So I need to go where your Wi-Fi is. He's like, that's a bit of a problem there, helping you there. And it's like, we don't have Wi-Fi here. It kind of takes away from the whole idea here. And she's like, you have no Wi-Fi. Like, no. And she's kind of still trying to get the bars and stuff like that. And he's still talking and saying things. If you need me, I'll be around and stuff like that. And he kind of walks away, and she all of a sudden doesn't realize that he walked away. And then she starts walking off, and she's trying to find bars and stuff like that. And eventually she ends up going into a building, and that's where the rest of the people are, and Blonsky are, and they're having a group session. So we'll stop there. So that whole little section there of the episode. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I mentioned the whole bop thing. I think that was absolutely hilarious. I just want to get that out there. I want to keep saying that. That was absolutely freaking hilarious. I thought that was so funny. She was singing to that song because, 25 years ago, that song was popular, and they're using it in this, which I think is absolutely hilarious. But anyways, so going from that montage, basically to getting that call, to her ending up at the retreat, that conversation, getting introduced to Man Bull and the swashbuckler and stuff like that. What were you guys' thoughts on that section? Was there anything maybe you might have noticed? Was there anything you didn't care for? Was there maybe something that really stood out to you at all? Starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, okay. The Bob thing, I was just thinking through the timeline. If she's 30-something, she would have been about 10-something. And so she would have been a fan of the Hansons. So, the timeline sense, it actually made sense that way. Sorry. And it was funny. It did come out of nowhere. Why did they pick that? That's hilarious. As far as the whole her going with the cop thing, it's pretty thin that they would let a guy be on duty by himself to do something like that. Like, that's pretty thin considering the threat of abomination. So I was like, that's rather convenient, but okay, fine. And the way that they played up the, sorry, do you have plans? Am I ruining any of your plans? And she's, looks at her phone, was like, no. Okay, fine. Just kind of gives up. So in that sense, it was okay. Now, the the whole thing with the man bull and the matador, and I don't know. Again, we're getting into like C characters, and I didn't really like it. Plus, the dialogue was, for me, really hard to understand what they were saying. I really was struggling with the man bull. I couldn't figure out what they were saying at first, and the whole "I'm not a matador" and I think he tried to say his name or something. It was really hard to understand that dialogue during that part of the show. I don't know what was going on. If they just like pick up the pace, we got to, I don't know what it was, but I didn't care for any of that because it just seemed, we have to wreck her car somehow. Okay, let's have Man Bull run it. It was like, okay, whatever. And I guess the whole thing of I think what they were trying to set up was she was really stressed out about this Josh thing, but I didn't get like the way she was just like, I'm looking for bars. I'm just looking for bars. Oh, I can't find it. Can't believe you don't have service. Oh, bummer. She was never frustrated to a level like, well, maybe I should sit down. It was just okay. I didn't, none of that I think that's what they were going for. It didn't come across at all as far as a frustration level. She was just, it's frustrated, but not to the level that she would sit down with all these random people and start talking about her life, which we haven't got to yet, I know, but that's where it goes. Anyway, so, it was sort of convenience to set things up so that you could have an episode, as opposed to something that really did kind of drive the story. It was more just convenient things that happened to make it work. Like, oh, what are we going to do? Let's do this. Okay, that'll work. Great. Let's go on the next thing. That seemed more like that than other parts of the show. So I'll leave it at that. That's my thoughts on that.
Now, did you think that it was sloppy writing? Did you think that they could have done something more with it?
Well, here's they didn't. Well, okay. What I didn't like was when they left Blonsky, when he was given, all right, you can have the monitor and the inhibitor, which that wasn't the same thing. So this whole thing with the monitor being the inhibitor was like, nah, I didn't really buy that either, but whatever. And the electric fence, there's something fishy with that. So we'll probably find that out later. I have a feeling, but whatever. I think they didn't really ever say that he was going to set up a retreat for people to come and, it was just like, I'm going to go and meditate, basically, is where they left it. And now he's got, now he's consulting with these people and charging money. And like, that's not what it was. Okay, fine. Of course things can evolve, but they didn't really explain it. They just sort of, that's what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Sure. Whatever. So I guess I would put it in the sloppy writing category because a lot was left up to the viewer to fill in gaps, a lot. And that seemed to happen a lot in really old TV shows. If you go back and watch TV shows, there was a lot of gaps in the 50s and 60s that you just had to, okay, whatever, and the sophistication of plot, driving the plot and character development in a quick way hadn't been really thought out yet. So there was a lot of holes, and it reminds me kind of like that, sort of.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I say.
All right.
Big long answer to a stupid question. All right, sorry.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Loki's mom. Same question for you. Basically, that section where Jen gets the call up to basically when she walks in to where they're having the group meeting. Basically, that section where Man Bull and the Swashbuckler are introduced in that section. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I know that when she was kind of going through that phase where, okay, he's not calling me back. He's not going. Finally, it's Sunday morning, and she's finally, well, that was another, dud. And then she gets the call from the lawyer, and then of course he doesn't want to go up there without her. He's not the lawyer, but the probation officer. And I think when they got up there, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought that Abomination would have had his Emil would have had his lady friends there with him. I didn't see any of those his bevy of beauties that was at his parole hearing. But yeah, he wound up having to be he's got like a retreat going for mutants, and they all have whatever. One guy's a man bull, one guy's got this matador, electric matador. Well, you know, that's something he said, the electric fence. And if you remember, the matador had he has electricity powers. Anyway, so yeah, I thought it was actually pretty clever, because when you stop and think about it, Jen's working for a law firm that specializes in mutants and superheroes. So Emil is going to he's become a guru, or I don't know what I guess a guru or something like that, to help superheroes and mutants to calm down and find their inner peace and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty clever. I did like that part. And then of course when she winds up in the therapy, and then she breaks down and starts telling all the guys about the, you know, her man problems and her self-esteem problems and all that. And they've been kind of like dicks toward her up to that point. But then when and it's like, let's go kill him, which is so typical men, because they go from one extreme to the other. It's either no big deal, or let's go kill the guy. And so yeah, I don't know what Mr. Fantastic didn't see there, but I thought it was really well written. I didn't have any issues. Actually, I'm thinking this is probably one of their best episodes they've had since the first two. I mean, I think episode 1 and 2 were pretty darn good, but it kind of fell off after that. But this one last week, and then this one has really uplifted the series, and so far, I mean, I didn't have any problems with any of it. You know, not a lot of superhero stuff going on. It was a lot of more talking and more comedy and stuff like that. But even so, you know, I thought it was pretty good.
Awesome, thank you. So a little bit more on Manbull for you guys. His actual name is William Torrens. He actually worked for a guy named Mr. Klein, where he was instructed to basically kidnap people off the street to use for experimenting. And at one point, he was stopped by Daredevil, who ended up, because of that failure, the Manbull was actually subjected to the injections himself and turned him into the monstrous Manbull that we end up finding out him to be. So there's a little info for you guys on who Manbull is, which I think is really interesting. So I don't know if any of you knew anything about Manbull before this episode. How about you, Mr. Fantastic? Did you know anything about Manbull before this episode?
Not a whole lot, and I was showing you my new encyclopedia I just pulled up. So I thought, well, since you're pulling out facts, I'll see if he's in the encyclopedia.
Yep.
And so far, I can't find him.
It's a Marvelpedia.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Not seeing a Manbull in here. So he didn't even make the encyclopedia. So I okay. I do remember. I think I have a Daredevil maybe with a Manbull or something, like he hinted at it like afterwards or something. Because I do remember the name, but I don't remember much about him.
Yeah, he was actually introduced into a Daredevil comic in 1971. That's his first appearance.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right.
Okay.
All right. So moving right along in this episode, which was a mere 34 minutes long, which I wish it had been a little bit longer. I'm hoping that episode 8 and 9 are a little bit longer, given a little bit more information versus all the other half-hour episodes. Because the longest one we've had so far was 36 minutes. So I'm hoping we get at least a 40, maybe a 45-minute couple episodes. So that'd be good, hopefully. So it gives us a little bit more information to work with. So after Jed pops up in there, she finally finds a bar. And we see Emil and all these different people, Manbull, the Swashbuckler, and a few other people sitting there having group. And so they're all talking and stuff, and she's like, comes in and sees the bar and is like, and Emil's like, Jen, you found us. And she's like, yeah, I found a bar. I'm going to just be over here. And she sits down and she's trying to see if she can get anything going with her phone. And they keep having their conversation in there. Then we're introduced to Porcupine. And then I think his name was Saracen, who was supposed to be a vampire. And then, of course, we have, a Manbull and the Swashbucklers there, too, as well. And then as they're talking and stuff like that, and Jen's sitting down, she starts to kind of peek on them talking about it and what they're talking about and stuff like that. And Swashbucklers once again talk a little bit about himself and stuff, which is we feel that's pretty much what he does. And all of a sudden another guy comes out walking and he goes, I just got done with my urine. I felt good. And all of a sudden She-Hulk looks over and Jen looks over and notices who it is. She's like, what's he doing here? And basically Hulk's out and goes over and grabs him and is like, I'm going to kick your butt, basically. And like, whoa. They're like, whoa, what are you doing? And he's like, he's like, and basically it goes back to Jen. She's like, wait a sec, you guys don't recognize him? Let's do that back thingy thing where they do. He's like, and it's like it goes back like to episode 3, and it all of a sudden shows him, and he's one of the thugs that tried to mug her in episode 3 that had one of the Thor weapons or the Asgardian weapons. And so then after it shows that, it goes back and they're like, Emil's trying to calm her down, like, oh, wait, let's talk this out and stuff like this and that. So they sit down basically and they start having this group session. And that thug guy, he starts to like talk and stuff like that. It's like, maybe we need to do this and that and like do all this like calming techniques and stuff like that. He starts talking about, and they all start talking, and then eventually he starts to get Jen to open up and start talking about this whole situation with Josh. And just like Loki's mom had mentioned earlier. And so they're having this conversation and talking and stuff, and they all like saying, some of them are saying funny things. Porcupine's saying some things. Sarozin says a couple things and stuff like that as they're talking and stuff like that. And eventually they get to a point where they're like, you're dynamic. You are the best as Jen, because basically she says that finally somebody liked me for being just Jen versus just being She-Hulk. And that was the whole problem and stuff like that she felt like, She-Hulk was kind of like this, added, pressure that she had to be both, and that she could enjoy both things with herself. And so they all start saying things, and like Sarah's at one point says something. He's like, save me, or something like that about how he said something. Like he's like, oh yeah, you're like gorgeous or something, and tasty too. And he's like, oh, somebody come in and help me. And they're all talking and stuff, and basically they end up like kumbaya-ing type of deal. And like she ends up becoming not hulked out anymore. And so basically then she like goes down, and they're like all kind of like kumbaya type of thing, and like, oh, happy. And then after that, she's like, at the very end, she's like, I think I'm gonna yurt now. And so then they all of a sudden pan away, and they go, and it shows them walking up to where the yurt is, and she's inside the yurt, and like a few seconds go by, and then she walks out of the yurt, and they're like, and she's like, does the thumbs up thing, like, oh, it worked, the urine helped. And then basically it pans from that and goes to showing her and Emil walking, and them walking all back to her, where the tow truck guy came. And they're like, we got something for you, Jen, the one guy that tried to mug her. And they give her this card and says, bye, Jen, and then opens it up, and it's all, they have all signed in and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, and basically, Emil's like, I think you had a breakthrough and stuff like that, and maybe this would help you to do this more often. Come back, you're welcome anytime back and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, totally. And so she gets into the tow truck, and it drives away, and we'll stop right there. So lots of information there. So we had this interesting, hilarious kind of like group therapy session thing going on here. We see Jen go from Hulk to Jen a few times throughout this section. And I don't know if anybody noticed. Did anybody notice the posters on the back, on like the walls? And like it had like some sort of saying, but then underneath it said by Emil Blonsky. That was hilarious. I love that. I thought that was so funny, and like a little clue to like him. And then there is another poster. I don't know if anybody noticed, but it says Abomination underneath it. On one of them, it's like a yellow poster, and it says Abomination, which I thought was hilarious, showing that he's Abomination and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. But basically, what were you guys' thoughts on the therapy session? Basically, her coming to the conclusion of, Josh, he doesn't deserve her. That she needed to delete his, number from her phone, and basically that whole section and discussion, and then basically leading up to her doing the yurt, and then her basically leaving in the tow truck. What were you guys' thoughts all on that little section? Starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think. Okay, so in a sense, it all was comedic enough that it was enjoyable to watch, and so some funny lines between the people, and making fun of Matador and Manbull because they seem to be fighting, but they're not. So she makes the quip of, "Are you guys married, or what is going on over there?" So some good moments, good writing in that sense of just making it comedic and light and whatever. As far as the whole her being willing to share stuff, I thought it was that's a bit of a reach. Just met these guys, doesn't really like them, just smashed her car. I don't know. Okay, fine, whatever. But once they did get into it, when they asked her about, well, what did you text him? What was the last thing you texted him? And so, that was fun. I'm always I'm always smiling or something like that. And they were like, oh, I can't believe. And I thought, that's an interesting thing that they all thought that would be a horrible thing to text to a guy. It's, like, oh, it didn't seem that, it wasn't clingy. It wasn't, it wasn't the thing that guys usually repel, right? Rebel against or don't like. It was like, oh, well, it's fine, and then then it was as Loki's mom already mentioned. Then all of a sudden, they sort of turn it around so quickly to like, we're gonna kill him because he's a horrible guy. Like they're sort of sympathizing, and then within a minute they're ready to kill him. So, kind of typical in a guy sense of, all right, well, we're gonna come to her aid. We're gonna defend her honor kind of deal. So, I think it was interesting in that, like, I don't know why they reacted like that, but maybe. And then it was, okay, I guess so. So very, very thin on the character, very kind of almost two-dimensional in a sense of character about in that whole section. But, it still was very funny. So I liked it. It was just, on that end. It wasn't very deep. And then I guess what they were going for is Jen accepting She-Hulk as part of herself and not separate. So that, kind of, if there was a point to this whole episode, I think that's what they were trying to get to, where she fully embraces that she's both, and that's totally okay. And so they went through this whole big rigmarole with what they did to get to that point, which is okay. I mean, if that was the point, fine. Then I think they got there, and it was fun to watch. Oh, I did want to say the her thing of like, didn't you guys get him on the previously on? Like, do that thing, and then they did it. I thought that was pretty funny. So not only did she break the fourth wall, now she's sort of like Deadpool directing. So that was pretty funny. So that's all I have. That's it. Not much. Just.
I thought, that whole breaking the wall and the previous on thing was absolutely freaking hilarious. I thought that was perfect for that section, and I love that they did that because I thought that it was well written, but at the same time they edited it very well too. I thought that it worked really well in that sequence. Yeah. So I thought that was really fun.
I agree. Yeah.
Most definitely. All right, Loki's mom, your thoughts on that sequence? If you're there.
Yeah, I had already talked about it a little bit, but yeah, mentioning how their reaction to the that initial, what did you text? What did you text? And she came back with, I was always smiling, and their reaction was kind of over the top. Other than Emil, none of these, I didn't notice any of these guys, as being chick magnets or anything. Just, they probably haven't dated a lot themselves. So they're just trying to give her the best advice. But yeah, but I mentioned again how they just did that big flip. and all of a sudden she became their sister, and they wanted to protect her and everything, and go out and pound the guy for treating her dirty and all that. So I thought that was probably one of the sweetest scenes. Of course, whether the and maybe that's kind of like her going to be like her little core group of guys that she goes out and fights crime with or something like that. Maybe that's what they're starting to form up here. So, and I'm kind of worried about Emil. I'm thinking he may be the guy that's wanting to get her blood. He's the guy behind all this. So let's hope not. I mean, I love Tim Roth too much for him to be a villain in this piece, but anyway, yeah, like you said, I just enjoyed the whole episode just all the way through.
Awesome.
I think that's a good point about Abomination maybe behind this. I think that's a really good point, because that would be a good twist that you wouldn't expect per se, but he's already involved, so it does. That's a good call.
Well, that one guy, the guy with the wrecking crew, and he's there in the group. He showed up in the group session. So like, what's he doing there? He was just trying to assault her the other night. And,
and he's not really a mutant. He's just a guy that had a stick. So like if he's catering to mutants, what is he doing there? So it's really good point. That's a really good point.
He's a minion.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that when we get Thunderbolts in 2 years, I think that Abomination will pop up in it. Most definitely, I think, because as you can see through the series, they're kind of setting him up to be a bigger picture of the MCU, just like how they're bringing back, Tim Blake Nelson as the leader in Captain America 4. I think it's all, basically ramping up to, we'll eventually see these characters again in the films. So I feel that there's definitely something with Emil behind the scenes that we haven't seen yet, which I think it'll be interesting to see what all that is. And I definitely feel that that's a good point too, Loki's mom. I think that totally is.
In the promo clip, was there a clip of the Abomination that we hadn't seen yet, kind of like the Daredevil stuff? Because I thought there was a thing with Abomination, but I don't remember seeing that scene before.
Was it the scene where when he grew in the side the
Nope. He was
cage?
walking across. He was walking somewhere with cars in a parking lot or something. It was just him walking. That was it, and it was very fast. And I don't remember seeing that before. I'm wondering if that's because the Daredevil thing hasn't happened, and they showed a lot of that. So I'm kind of anyway.
Maybe that's in either episode 8 or 9. Maybe.
So we will see him again. I'm sure at this point.
Yeah, most definitely. So, which will be cool because the Abomination is awesome. But anyways, just a little bit more about another one of those guys, the guys that I keep talking about, the swashbuckler. His name is actually El Igaila, and he actually made his first appearance in a comic book in August of 1979 called Power Man and Iron Fist number 58. His real name is Alessandro Montoya. He's actually basically the literary edition or the Marvel edition of Zorro is basically what he is. He is considered a mutant, though. He is a human mutant. So we have had a mutant now in the MCU again. So Miss Marvel, now El Aguilera, which actually in Spanish is translated to the Eagle, which I think is kind of interesting. So a little bit more there for you guys there. If you have not checked him out, he is part of the Iron Fist comic book series.
Okay.
Defenders. Ooh. Anyways.
Spider-Man, Iron Fist, Defenders, Daredevil. Boy, it's all just coming together.
All coming together, all coming together. All right. So the end of the episode. So after Jen leaves, basically kind of pans out and shows the city as she's driving back. And then all of a sudden it blacks out and all of a sudden it goes to 3 days earlier. So at 3 days early, all of a sudden shows her in bed that night that she went to bed with Josh. Josh is sitting there, and it basically shows him kind of getting dressed, and then you look over, and his phone is on top of her phone and copying her phone. Then he gets up, takes the phone, takes a picture of her, and starts texting to somebody and sends it, and basically it shows him texting a person named the Hulk King, and shows the emoji for a shot and blood, and send, and that's how the episode ends. And then we, of course, we get the credits, and then no post-credit scene again for this episode, which I was really shocked that there was another post-credit scene. It's been like 4 episodes and we haven't got a new one, so that's kind of sad. But that's pretty much how the episode ends. So, talking a little bit about that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Hulk King. Who do we think the Hulk King is? People's thoughts here. Who do you think the Hulk King is? Where do you think it's taken us? And do you think it's going to lead into one of the future films? Starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, I checked the encyclopedia. There is no Hulk King in my encyclopedia. So there. But I think, honestly, I think Abomination's a good candidate right there. I mean, just for the ego side of it, that, he's a gamma, guy just like they are in that sense. So I'd say that's a decent candidate and not bad. Leader also makes a lot of sense. Just that he would be a code name, right? He would use a code name or whatever. So I don't it'd be totally no, that wouldn't make any sense. Sorry. I was going to go on a big tangent, which made no sense. So I'll just edit that out right now. So yeah, well, okay. So at that moment, right, when he's sitting there and then I started copying, I was like, yeah, well, peg that one. Cause when he was gone, I was like, yeah, this is not going to go well. I could just immediately I knew that's where they were going. So it was confirmed, right? It's just like, okay, yeah. And there obviously is someone trying to get her blood who now apparently has it from Josh. So that's I'm like, okay, we can speculate all we want. I assume by the end of the series, we'll know who that person is. And then that'll set up the next season. That's my guess on that.
Do you think that could possibly be connected to the leader at all?
Yeah, I think it could be the leader. Like, I think the leader could be using that as a pseudonym, just, so he's being KG and all that stuff like leader would do. It's very possible. So could be him, could be Abomination, or some unnamed. I don't know yet, but those two seem to be the most logical right now.
Most definitely. Loki's mom, your thoughts?
Well, I'm not familiar with the Hulk King, but I guess the leader. I guess that's who this. And I just pulled this up on the internet real quick, and of all things, Men's Health. So they say, who is the Hulk King and She-Hulk? And I think they listed Todd Phelps. He's sort of I think he was a creepy guy that wound up with Titania at the wedding. Wasn't that him? I'm not sure, but anyway. Then they got Titania. Then they got the leader. We haven't heard from Dr. Samuel Stearns in 14 years. So that's Tim Blake Nelson. MODOK, voiced by Patton Oswalt. I'm filling in for Jeff, by the way. Doing the internet thing. And then someone working for Thunderbolt Ross. So, well, that gives us a lot of options. So I'm curious to find out what's going on. And yeah, we finally found out that the really hot guy, the really sweet guy at the wedding turned out to be a jerk and a half.
Yeah, that's not shocking. They like to do that.
We need to find Jen a boyfriend.
Apparently so.
Maybe
well, it's funny.
I think she and Emil Blonsky would hit it off well together.
Oh, there you go.
Age difference is a bit, but yeah.
What the heck?
Sure.
She's a Hulk. He's an abomination. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Well, it's kind of funny too. When I started first watching this episode, the first thing I said once, when all of a sudden I saw that he was ghosting her, I was like, dude, I knew it. Because even in the previous episode, when he was all of a sudden he popped up at the wedding, I'm like, this dude is after her blood. He was after her blood. That has to be what it is. And that's got to be it. And then when it popped up at the end, I was like, holy crap, I was right for once. I was like, wow, I got one right. Because half the time usually I'll be like, I think it's this, and it'll be completely opposite. And then this one I actually got right. I'm like, hey, 1 out of a zillion, that's pretty good. Anyways, so yeah, that's basically it for that episode. So we still have a few minutes to talk here. So what do we see? What do you think we possibly see in the next two episodes? Do you think that do you think we'll get Daredevil in the next two episodes? Do you think we'll get him in just one episode? Do you think that we'll be seeing Blonsky in the next two episodes or just one of them? And do you think where do you think the direction is going? Do you have, it doesn't have to be like the biggest thing, but just what are your thoughts maybe on where you could see it going and maybe how the series will end? Starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, I'll go with what I hope they do. I hope they do Daredevil in both of them, because it would be great to have the two lawyers going at it as lawyers and then as superheroes, right? So to have that dichotomy in a half an hour would be tough to do. So it'd be nice to fill that in, and I think that would be a cool. There's a lot of possibilities there of just interaction and getting to know each other in different ways, and hating each other, liking each other, getting to work, whatever, all that stuff that could happen. So I'm kind of hoping they do that. Abomination, again, I think that clip in the promo is something I haven't seen yet. So I'm sure he's in at least Abomination, not necessarily Mio, but Abomination for sure is in at least one episode. I'd be willing to bet that encyclopedia. No, I'm not going to bet that. I haven't read it yet. I'm not going to bet that. But I have some stickers I could give away. Anyway, so that's my hope, because Daredevil, She-Hulk, the lawyer connection between the two, again, I think has a lot of great cinematic possibilities just for the whole superhero law thing. Then we get into Civil War, right? There's a whole big connection to the Superhuman Registration Act. I mean, this could go that route into MCU big time, and they could be in the middle of it. So I'm kind of hoping they really develop that, because that would be worth a movie where there's Civil War, not the original Civil War, but a real Civil War with a ton of superheroes actually done well. That would be cool to see, and this could set that up pretty well.
Yeah, when I found out that Civil War was coming out, that they were making the third Captain America Civil War, I actually read the whole graphic novel of that to get an idea of what it could be. And so after reading that, which I thought was a really great comic, I mean, it was amazing, like the whole concept and everything. And then when I saw the movie and like how much they just like altered and changed it, I was just like, what the heck did they do?
It wasn't even close. Yeah, it wasn't even close. It was just a squabble between a few people.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I'm like, I don't get why Marvel decided, let's take that huge, great story and make it a portion of just a part of Captain America. And I'm like, I mean, I get, that they kind of did that so that it would they would stifle, basically break off so that they could go into their extended different areas so that they could further it into Infinity War and Endgame and everything. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they could have done it so differently and not ruined Civil War story and actually keep.
Yeah, they sort of blew it, as in, well, now they can't in a way because they already used it.
Yeah.
But if they go the Superhuman Registration Act side and they could resurrect it and take it another direction and actually go, they could.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool. I mean, that actually would be worthy of a movie, but whether they can at this point, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Loki's mom, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I do hope we get to see some Daredevil before, because they've teased him enough. Of course, this isn't his story; it's still She-Hulk's story. So, we may see a little bit of him in the next two episodes, or maybe just the last one. But and I've voiced this before, but I'm sort of hoping that She-Hulk herself, Jim, will sort of flow into his TV show also. Like you say, since they're both lawyers. So there's that connection that and there would be another great boyfriend for She-Hulk would be Daredevil. So yeah, they have a lot in common besides being superheroes, and of course she can see and he can't. But
That's
They
minor.
don't have that in common. But
Nah.
anyway,
He's got other ways to detect things. So
yeah.
he's okay.
he doesn't really need it if you stop thinking.
Yeah, he doesn't. No.
But yeah, I don't really know how it's going to go from here beyond that. Whether how this will play out, factor out in the movies and everything. I just like you say, I'm just sort of expecting it. There'll be some connection to the Daredevil and She-Hulk TV. Go not just the TV, but maybe even going into the movies or whatnot going forward. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah, I don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of open to anything. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm not that familiar with all these characters, so I can't really anticipate anything. I'll just have to see what comes. Yeah, and like I say, I thought it was a really good episode, and I really and I'm wondering where the tag scenes or whatever you call them, the end credit scenes are at, because they had set up several and then we're not getting any more. So anyway, yeah. But that's just about it. That's about all I have to say. I'd give this another 7.
Nice. All right. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So let's. What is one thing that you would like to see come out of Daredevil in the last couple episodes? So if we only get him in one episode, what would you like to see happen with him? Is there anything particular that you'd like to see happen with this reintroduction to this Daredevil that we have come to know from the Netflix series, that they're taking that character but still kind of altering and changing him a little bit for the MCU? What would you like to see happen with this final appearance of Daredevil in the She-Hulk series, Mr. Fantastic?
I think 2 things mainly. One, less dark, introspective, I don't want to live anymore, Daredevil. Like, okay, we got enough of that in this series. Like, a little bit more like, okay, I got a grip on my life, and here's my purpose, and I'm good. I'm good with what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So I think that would be nice. Like just to shift it into a more straight ahead character. We got that part of his, and that was part of his character in the comic books too. So it's fine. It's just, I think in this, like, that's too much for what we're doing here. So just he knows his purpose. He's ready to go. And then for them to go at it and sort of almost evenly matched because of his abilities, and strength isn't everything, so to just, not that he's better or she's better, but just kind of like she's like, wow, okay, I should be able to beat up this guy and I can't. What's going on? And, he's a little bit more strategic, and kind of, they sort of she learns a little bit from him in that sense. That's what I think would be.
All right. Awesome. Loki's mom, any thoughts on that?
On what they're going to do with Daredevil, or
yes,
what was the question?
Yeah, what do you see them, or what would you like to see out of Daredevil in the final 2 episodes of She-Hulk this series?
Oh. Well, let's figure out why in the world he's got that awful looking yellow suit. What's that for? It's not very good for hiding at night with. Maybe it's his day devil, his day devil suit or something.
His day devil.
Day devil dare or something. I can't get it all out. But yeah, I mean, I think Matt Murdock's just such a great character, and I think he's probably like Stark or Captain America or Black Widow, in that it's a major character. He's somebody who can probably do his own movie at some point. So yeah, I'm hoping that he'll be like one of the biggest characters in the whole group coming in the next few years. I mean, such a great actor. Golly, Charlie Cox. Charlie Cox is who did it, and of course he's another one of the great Brit actors that come over. And actually was doing a play with Tom Hiddleston there for, I think, a year or so ago on Broadway. So that was interesting that these 2 guys, got to be friends and everything, and then maybe they'll show up in the movie in the MCU together later down the road. So we'll see. So yeah, like I said, I'm kind of open to everything. Just let's get rid of that terrible suit, and I just want to see Matt Murdock one more time.
If
Awesome.
I'm not mistaken, the very early Daredevil, like few couple episodes, he did have yellow, like a yellow part of his helmet, if you will, and then like a yellow stripe and maybe a belt looking thing on his uniform. So there was yellow in it for a little bit, and then they immediately switched to dark. It was very quickly went to the almost black, red, the kind of thing. But there was yellow, I think, for the first couple of first couple of comic books, maybe. Not that matters, and it's still bad. but I think it was there, if I'm not mistaken.
His first couple issues that came out in 1964. He had a yellow helmet and yellow arms and yellow legs, and then the torso was red.
Okay.
So then after there was no appeal for it, they decided to alter it to the fully red. And because that encompassed more the idea of him being a daredevil and, kind of like blood color.
Yeah, the devil part of it, making it more scary. And
and it made more sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So that is it for this episode, guys. We will sign off here. We did a great hour of a half-hour long episode. I thought we had a great discussion. You guys were all great on the panel. So we'll go around and go ahead and plug whatever you like, and then we'll get out of here. So starting with you, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, I am doing content on Rumble, so my channel at Marvel Fan 2 over there, doing some things with the legendary card building game, doing some playthroughs doing solo playthroughs of all the expansions of that. And I also do a lot with, it's not really content for public, but I do a lot with the Contest of Champions game, building alliances and helping people out and that kind of thing. So that's what I got going on in the Marvel world.
Nice. Excellent. And of course, Loki's mom, would you like to plug Sakar?
Yes, anytime we want to go over and have some fun chit chat over typing wise over on sakar.forum.net, and it's run by the great Grandmaster himself, and he also does the MCU Podcast of Champions, and we're also reviewing House of Dragon, in addition to She-Hulk, and also the new Lord of the Rings, the Power of the Ring, I believe is the name of it. They're also doing that, and they're doing Andor, and so they really mix it up over there and talk about all kinds of TV shows and whatnot. And it's a great cast of characters that come on and give us their erudite Marvel opinions.
Awesome, thank you. And of course, you know me, Cyberneticshark. You can find my solo stuff under Cyberneticshark under YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me all of those places if you like my style on here and want to check out my other solo content besides doing with the MCU's Bleeding Edge over there. With October coming up, I will be doing a lot of horror-themed film reviews, and we'll be also doing the 100 best horror films of all time as well, so be out looking for that. I will be doing it in several parts throughout the month, so keep your eye out for that. And of course, if you like that stuff, definitely check that stuff out too, folks. And also, just an update, I just started round 4 of the Face of Horror contest. If you still want to get in there and vote for me, I'm trying to make to the top 5 this next round. I'm currently in 3rd. I would like to push it to 2nd place. That would be great if you guys could help out. And every person that has voted, I want to thank you all. You guys are great, keeping me in that 3rd spot. So it's been great. So if you get a chance, go to that. I will have the link in the comments in here, and you can go check that out, people. So I want to thank you all. This was a great episode, and you guys have a great night, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
See you around, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Every day of the week, if I hop up on the mic, they gon' play it on repeat. Cash 100 milli check, I get paid just to breathe. Kill it 24/7, cause I slay in my sleep. Flames pipe down when I enter in the convo.